Okay, everyone. Mastermind with Neil Schwartz. Very, very special guest, Robert Radcliffe from Malibu, California. Let's give him a big welcome. Woo! Robert. Good
Thank you
job.
for
Good
having me,
job.
Neil.
Good job. Excellent. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right. Good work. Good work. Uh, Robert, let me ask you. Well, let's do this. Let's first give our audience a little Reader's Digest version of your business, maybe some of the ups and downs that you've had as a real estate agent, and how you can function so well in the Malibu communities, the high end communities of Southern California.
There's a lot there. I mean, how I'm surviving today, or how I transition
Well,
into this.
let's say where you came from originally
Well, that's also
first.
that's a deep story. So I started off. I've been doing this for 33 years. I specialize in Malibu, Pacific Palisades, Brentwood, Santa Monica, luxury real estate market. That's not where I started my business. I was down in Venice, kind of in the hood. And at the time, I was one person in a one-bedroom apartment with three people. I could barely afford uh, our $895 a month rent, my third. Scraping quarters from the back of my car seat to fill the fill the gas tank. And yeah, didn't think I was going to survive in this business. I started in 1991 and struggled my first year big time. I think I made a total of $2,700 my first year. My second year, I made $28,000 and felt like I was a player.
Uh,
Um, and then things just kind of steamrolled from there.
but you didn't come out swinging from life. You had a couple of hurdles before that you even got your real estate license, right?
That I did. Yeah. So, semi embarrassing to say, and it's kind of the ugly part of my story, but I came through it, was that back in high school and when I was a teenager, sadly, I got very addicted to drugs and ended up, taking me to the streets, living. I was homeless, living on the streets, car to car, garage to garage, a couple times under a bridge, hotel room to hotel room. And it was kind of ugly. But luckily for me, I sobered up when I was 23 years old, been sober for 33 years. And that's actually simultaneously when I started my real estate career. They both, those stories sort of collided, of getting sober and trying to be someone in my life, and
Wow,
that was, luckily, friends led me into real estate.
that's fabulous. So, what was your family affluent West Side family earlier on, or you just were?
Great question.
Um, sorry.
Great question, because I think that has been like, I applaud those that grew up in country clubs and did something with that advantage. So I have lots of my colleagues and friends that I'm like, golf clap, good for you. You took what you were given and you did something with it. Awesome. A little bit of envy, but awesome. For me, that wasn't my story. No, my parents were not from an affluent, whatever family. I didn't grow up with that silver spoon. And, but that's also the good part too, like for those of us that haven't, it's, it's what makes us today, as far as to grow past that. And to learn, for me, it was learning to adapt and fit in with the high-end luxury market. And I tell those that work with me now that my goal for them working with me is to fast track the learning curve by 5 years. To not say all the stupid things I said, like walking in to the closet and going, wow, this place is bigger than my apartment. I can't even imagine living like this. Like, you don't say that to fit in.
Right, right. Yeah.
Or,
Or that or
or
that I
put your
like
gas cap.
driving or like I like driving this old Nash Rambler because I want to be conservative. It's because that's all I can afford.
And that's what I thought too, getting into real estate. It's funny because I had a beat up red Mitsubishi Mirage. I always forgot to put my gas cap in there. I'd lose it all the time. I literally have a rag stuffed in the gas cap. I had my Grateful Dead stickers, my surf racks, my Mexican blankets covering at that time I was a smoker. So the cigarette burns in the car. And then it had one of those automatic seat belts, when like people get in. So my clients that would get in that were like uh, willing to get in a car with me, they'd strap them in, and it was quite the scene of learning. No, I need to get out of that, as far as quickly as possible and try to look like my clients.
So there's an interesting point. We have a number of agents that are great salespeople, and would love to raise their price point, but they don't know how. They think they have to belong to a country club or donate lots of money or walk me through that a little bit. I think that'll help.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, again, I didn't. So one thing I learned early on was know the inventory. You've got to know the inventory in the market that you want to be working in, period. Go preview those homes. Dedicate every week to know the inventory, because you will have dialogue with sellers and you want to be able to speak with experience of walking through those neighbors' homes and maybe even referencing those neighbors' names. Oh yeah, the Smith's house. Yeah, I saw that house too, down the street from you, and make that correlation and that relationship that they know that you know their neighborhood. Major, major factor. You've got to know the inventory.
Robert, as I'm hearing you say this, I mean, a big part of how we recommend for agents to move in the business is to learn the inventory and the scripts and dialogues first at any level. However, I think, just based on what I'm hearing right now, that going to the high end, knowing the inventory and previewing the properties is probably even more important at the high end than it is at the quote unquote average price range.
Yeah, I mean, it is, again, so it's be able to have that conversation with buyers and sellers. And I know for me, it feels I can come across with a lot of um, confidence when I've seen the inventory and I walk into a house and I can more or less maybe a percent or two off at most as far as what it's probably going to sell for without even running the comps. And sellers and buyers will be impressed by that. If you're meeting with a buyer first, and one of the questions I'll ask is, hey, what other homes have you seen, that you like, but for whatever reason didn't buy? And then they'll tell me the address. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that house. Oh, I see the correlation. And immediately having that dialogue where I know in their mind, they're like, wow, this is impressive.
This guy knows stuff.
This guy knows his stuff. I remember one time someone called me, it was a new listing of mine. And I asked the questions like, okay, great. You definitely will schedule for you to see it. When do you want to come take a look at the house? She said next week at the open house. Great. Tell me, by the way, what have you seen that you've liked so far that for whatever reason you didn't buy? She told me. I knew those homes. I knew the comparison. I said, April, do yourself a favor. Don't wait till Sunday. Get up to see this house now. You're going to buy this house. You'll buy this house. I know those homes that you just mentioned. Bring your checkbook and expect to write a full price offer tonight. That was the story. They went up
And
there.
that was the story.
And they bought the house full price that night. Because I knew the inventory to fast track that. And she felt confident knowing like, okay, he knew all those other homes.
But Robert, you're coming across as somebody that clearly knows the inventory. You've been around the area. You've got a reputation in the area. If we were to refer somebody or need somebody to help us on a higher listing price property, you're definitely a go-to guy. But you wear an expensive suit, beautiful shirt, custom. Don't I need to look like that to do what you're talking about getting started?
It helps, but it's not absolutely needed. When I started, again, the goatee, the earrings, the white hair, my dress shoes were Doc Martens. And, all my suits were from garage sales, but it didn't help. But as I made a sale here and there, yeah, you start looking the part. Like I had some guy that started working with me, and I said, listen, I'm totally fine with the ink, you sleeved and stuff. But if you want to run with the zebras, you do the best you can to look like a zebra,
Right.
So that's it. If you want to look like, a lot of my clients are sort of the, AYSO moms, PTA people, country club people. And then there's also a lot of celebrities and behind the camera. But yeah, I do the best I can to dress the part and look professional in meeting with them.
So on that thought, do you hold open houses with torn jeans?
No, it's really shocking the direction our industry has gone in, like it kind of blows my mind. Like when I started, and again, it was a different time and a different era, but it was like, you suit up. I'm in no tie today. Typically, I will wear a tie, especially if I'm meeting with a client. And I did list this one property. It was a $16 million house. And the guy said to me, he goes, Rob, can I tell you, after we were going through the paper, there's a few reasons I'm hiring you.
Okay,
One,
hold on.
we just went to someone. Hello?
No. So, let me go ahead.
Oh, I just remember him saying to me,
Go ahead. Oh, wait. You got muted too. Unmute yourself. There you go.
all right. So as I was saying, I remember this house that I listed here in Malibu for 16. And the guy said to me when we were done with the paperwork, he goes, by the way, can I tell you what I appreciate about you? The reason I called you and wanting you to come is your credentials. 2, it's what you've told me you're going to do to sell the house. But I got to tell you, 3, it's the way you showed up. He's like, I was stunned. He goes, like this $16 million house. It's like, I would assume this is kind of a big deal for real estate agents. And I'm like, yeah. He goes, Rob, people showing up like they just got done gardening. Like he was like, and the Malibu is a total chill vibe here, but I'll still wear a friggin' suit going to an appointment.
Right.
To me, it's a sign of respect to the client. To me, it's a sign of respect for commerce, for
Right.
just representing. And I've always been taught, you know what? I would rather be overdressed than underdressed and try to be the sharpest guy in the room.
100%. When you walk in, if the client's a little uncomfortable with it, they'll tell you, well, look, why don't you take your jacket off? And perfectly fine. I would take my jacket off and dress myself down slightly for the appointment, but always, always, always dress for success.
For sure. It makes you feel good.
Absolutely. Good stuff. All right. So, Robert, one of the things that we were talking about in this whole August 17th and blah, 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 and all the commissions, this is what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about commission. We've been teaching our agents. We charge 2.78 or 3% or whatever it is. What do you want to pay the buyer's agent? And we're really good at that, and we're getting great success with it. But in our conversation, this is what makes you and I versatile and successful, is that there's another way to skin the cat sometimes. Agreed?
Right.
And you had shared with me an approach that you've been taking successfully with your clients. And that's one of the things I kind of wanted to talk about here. So if you need me to role play it with you, or if you just want to start going through it, but you're on a listing appointment, you're talking to a seller about commission, and it's you choose the price range.
Well, I'll tell you one recently. I've got 3 listings now. One at 11,750. That's at 5. I try to get them at 6. I have another one at 5.5 million. That's at 6, and I have another one at 6 million, and that's at 6. And with that appointment and all of them, I attack the commission topic right, not out of the gate, but really sort of early on, and ask questions like, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, can we tackle a topic, and we're going to talk about a subject that I call incentive marketing. And by the way, I'll launch into probably a little bit longer dialogue on the topic than maybe Mike would want us to kind of like move on. But, I'm selling a $5-10 million home. If I spend 10 minutes on this topic, I'm cool with that. I'm not rushing through this topic. So I'll discuss it with them early on and say, hey guys, are you familiar with, you guys been familiar with Tony Robbins? 9 out of 10 people say, yeah. Well, Tony's a personal development guy like many others, and they've concluded something that's interesting, that human behavior tells us that we're either motivated by pain or reward. And in this case, we're going to implement reward as it relates to incentive marketing. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, ask your rhetorical question. Do you think you're going to end up getting more money for your home if every real estate agent out there puts your home at the top of the list of the category of homes they're showing their buyer? I mean, it's a rhetorical question. Obviously, you'll end up not only selling your home faster, which studies show you will, you're actually going to end up getting more money for your house by what I'm saying and suggesting, offering a full rate on commission, which is 6%. And by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and I'm going to stop role play for a moment. See, Neil, you were nodding. I'll read the client as I'm doing the dialogue. I'll see where they're going. If they're nodding, I know I'm on a right path. If they're like looking at me like this, I might shift things up a little bit, right? But then I'll continue on and just say, here's the beauty of it, is that most of the commission rates in our price range for your home, most of them are 5. So I don't want to try to stir you to think that most commission rates are 6. They're not. Most are 5. And that's a great thing, because it's now so much easier for you to stand out in the market with 6%. If most of them were 6, I would be talking to you about 7. So the good news is a lot of them are at 5, we being at 6. And what that means to you sellers, that you would be offering, 3% to me, and we'd be offering 3% to the other agent. Now, can I tell you the best part of all this? Well, obviously, yeah, is that we're being smart. We're being smart, and I know how important it is for seller to do this. And by the way, most agents won't have this conversation with you. I know that. They'll steer away from this. But I want to talk to you about how important it is that we get not only the incentive marketing campaign in, but the beauty of it, it's not going to cost you anything more. Can I explain why? They, of course, go, yeah, because we build it into our price. We know in advance, that your asking price is going to be absorbing that retail rate, and we build it in there. And here's the beauty, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're not going to end up signing the deal with a buyer unless you're happy with that net price. Because guys, really, isn't that what it's all about? It doesn't even matter if you pay me 1% or 12%. What matters is, what are you netting on that bottom line number? That's where our focus needs to be, is the net price. So let's build in 3 and 3. We offer that. And again, I know you're going to end up with not only a faster process, but you're going to end up getting a better sales price to you. Now I'll read them. Some will be nodding. Like my current listing, it's actually an escrow. The guy, John, and by the way, he's a huge exec at FX and smart guy, CEO. And he's says to his wife, he said, Allie, no. Because she asked about the commission. He's like, oh no, we're definitely doing 6. I read your material. I understand it. We're building into the price. Allie, speaking to his wife, we're going to be getting the house sold faster and more money. I was like, John, you're awesome. You're hired. Thank you. And then I'll also, if I'm feeling a little resistance, I'll say, client, just so you know, listen, the commission rate's totally up to you. Whether it's 5 or 6%. Either way, A, I want to work with you. B, I know I'm the best agent you should be hiring. I'll get the job done. I just wanted to have a conversation with you that's so important. And I'll also be totally transparent. Not every client does it. 8 out of 10 do. 7 out of 10 will do it. I've had attorneys say, Rob, that's the best damn reason I've ever heard, and I get it. I'm going to advise my client to, yes, go with 6%. But again, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what do you feel comfortable with? And then I leave it there. And then I read them and kind of figure out if they're like a little on the fence, but I feel like it's going to be kind of easy to tip them into, the direction I want them to go, which, by the way, I believe in. There's the most important thing. I believe what I'm saying because I've experienced it. I've seen it on the front lines. And maybe I have this dialogue too with the seller. Guys, the reason I'm being so passionate about it is because I believe it. I know it. I'm on the front lines. I'm pitching to agents. I watch their reaction when I say, oh, and by the way, full 3% CSO to you. I see people go, whoa, really? Wow. Oh my God. Yeah. I want to sell this house. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that's not to say people won't want to sell your home at 5. Of course they will. But you're going to be putting a more pep in their step, more enthusiasm. And I know they're being a little bit more animated, a little bit more expressive when talking with their client about your house, especially if the client's thinking about 2 different homes. Let's tip that in our favor, where we know that agent's out there pitching you a little harder.
Got it. So we talked a little bit earlier. What you're doing is excellent. And maybe this is the right spot for this, where the buyer now has to take money in some cases, not in the case of your listings, but let's say in the case of a lot of other listings where the buyer has to take money out of their pocket to buy the house, right?
Right.
So there's no incentive. So we talked a little bit about that, where let's say, because we're talking about commissions, in your case, your average sales price in the last 3 properties, you're running about $180,000 each side in commission dollars, right?
Yeah, my average is around 5, meaning 5 million on sales price.
Oh, okay. All right. So what's that? 150.
My average commission is 100,000.
Okay. So I was paying you more than that. Sorry.
Yeah. I'll take it.
But 100 grand, and you're being kind of tough, what sounds tough. How do you walk away from $100,000? How do you walk away from, well, if I can't get 100, I'll take 80, or if I take 80, I take 70. You get what I'm saying? That the kind of the mentality.
In what dialogue would I be having this conversation with buyer or seller? But they would also come down to one thing I would say to either party. Hey guys, do you want someone strong negotiating for you or someone that's weak? Honestly, I'm just kind of proving to you I'm a strong negotiator because I believe in what I'm bringing to you as far as value. Or do you want someone that's going to cave immediately, is just proven to you that they're going to be a terrible negotiator for you?
Robert, exactly. But what I'm talking about is other agents that might be on this call with us thinking to themselves, oh my God, if I could pick up $100,000 on a deal, I can't walk away from $100,000. So what if I do it for 80,000? 80,000 still a lot of money. So I'm talking about the mentality of an agent. How do you work to get past that? Because, did you start at that level or did you grow to that mentality?
I started. Do you remember a guy named John Douglas Company and John Douglas?
Very well.
Okay, so I started John Douglas Company, and the guy was a strong, like you, like a strong owner broker, and he just had this attitude, like this strong conviction of like, we're friggin' worth it. Like, shame on you if you go in there with 5%. Kind of like sometimes Mike spits at the stage. John Douglas kind of had that attitude, that zest, that, I don't know, machismo about him. And between him and Mike Ferry, that's where I started in the industry. And I would just be like, yeah, all right, that's the position I'm taking. I'm going in strong.
Got it. And that's helped you hold that line over the years.
For sure. Yeah, it has. I've done a lot, and in my community, I am recognized with my colleagues as being an agent that more so than others does get 6%. And I do the best I can. I don't get them all, but because I believe it'll make a difference for them. And yeah, I think it's a lot of just about having the courage of your convictions and just going in with that belief. Like, uh, I had the benefit of being coached by Mike directly for quite a while at early on in my career. And I remember he asked me, who's the best agent in your area? And I didn't say me. And he got fired up. He like got angry. What are you talking about, Michael? You know, it's you, damn it. It's you. You are the best person in your market. You need to go out and protect the public from falling in the trap of working with a weaker agent that can't guide them like you can. And there was this conversation went like boom and like completely rattled me in a good way, where I go into every appointment like very confident, trying to, no, I not obviously never want to be cocky, but very confident with the belief system that they should hire me and I'm worth every penny of it.
So you've seen every property that's listed over the years. You know the inventory in almost every case, correct?
9 out of 10, every house that, yeah, 9 out of 10 homes that have ever been on the market in my community I've seen.
Got it. So that's number one. Number two, you know the scripts and dialogues as good as anyone, maybe better.
I hope so, yes.
You've got the attitude that you are the best that they can work with.
Attitude, approach, expectation, as Mike says, right?
All the time. Attitude, approach, and expectation. That's what takes you over the top more times than not, correct?
Yeah. And again, also knowing that inventory does boost that level of confidence. And that's why I typically won't work outside of my area, because I don't want someone else in the room smarter than me, even though I like being actually in a room with people smarter than me, but not with selling real estate.
Right.
You know, and knowing the inventory.
So exactly. Well, that's interesting because I tried to get you to Orange County a couple times to do listing presentations, and you don't like doing that.
Yeah, because out of my area.
Yeah, I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. So it's as much knowing the product and the area as it is knowing how to present at a high level and carrying yourself off in a high level.
Yeah, you know, and Mike talks about it too. You know, he uses the example of professional athletes and actors rehearsing those scripts. Like I was telling you, I had my role play with Carlos Gutierrez this morning. You know, I have another one on Tuesday. I do it by myself. It's, you know, he said those are the highest paid professionals and they practice, practice, practice.
Right.
They rehearse. That actor doesn't go up there cold, you
No.
know. I mean, one of our best examples of someone practicing is Kobe Bryant, you know, that discipline.
Right. Amazing
We
discipline.
need to do the same. We need to do the same as real estate agents. You know, when you memorize, rehearse, memorize, internalize, you know, as Mike says, you know, those scripts where you own them, you know, and then you can kind of spin off. You can go, you know, like maybe not verbatim per script, but you own it. It's a part of you, you know, and then you can kind of spin off organically with the client and have conversation where it feels just like that conversation. Versus when I first started, literally a clipboard and asking questions. I remember the seller going, "Are you reading questions to me?" Like, yeah, I am. You mean the other agents you met with didn't? But yeah, then I internalize it.
Yeah, that's right. And then you can dance with the scripts, right?
Yeah.
100%. So let's break it. Let's just take a little break here and ask if anybody's got any questions before I go on some of the other stuff. So has anybody got questions on some of the things that Robert's talked about so far? Moving up price points, learning the inventory, scripts, dialogues, conversation. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I'm just having a really simple conversation with Robert right now. I hope you're feeling the same way, because I would suspect, Robert, that's how you make your clients feel.
Yeah, thank you. I hope I do. That's my goal, is like, you know, come across as with authenticity and being genuine, sincere, believing in what I say. By the way, another idea in regards to breaking into the luxury price market is when a sale takes place in that area, whether it's your office or another, circle dial. hey, by the way, are you guys aware a home just sold and down the street from you for 10 million? And, we always know when one home sells, usually two more in the neighborhood will. When do you guys see yourself plan on making a move? Or find out in your office, hey, are there anyone working with buyers that are looking in this price point? So then you can authentically say, hey, homeowner, we have clients that are looking to buy a home in this neighborhood. Have you guys thought about making a move?
Great idea. Two great ideas.
Whether it's your office or not, you can find
Yeah.
the market you want to work and start calling and providing information and letting people know. And now this is where it helps when you've seen that house.
Yeah. You have to preview first.
Yes, you have to know the house because they'll ask questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff. All right. Questions for Robert? Anyone want to ask anything, raise their hand, or just shout out? Josie, go ahead.
Robert, thank you so much. I think Neil interviewed you way in the beginning, didn't you, Neil? Long time ago?
In the beginning of time, yes.
I remember
Robert
the
and I were
story.
both children.
Yeah. Oh, I think. How do you prospect? And who do you, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love it.
Do you have,
how do you call? Do you door knock? Do you phone canvas?
Yeah, I use Mojo and I make my phone calls and my single dial, not triple dial anymore, because I guess per the way we're supposed to. And yeah, I love it. To me, it's like it's a mental game. It puts me in such a good mood every day because I have to bring that game face of right. I have to bring a happy tonality to the phone. I have to put that smile on my face. I have to get in a good mood and make calls. And I've had huge success with it. I mean, fortunately for me now, which is always a huge compliment when someone picks up the phone and says, I'll say, hey, this is Robert Radcliffe and with, Sotheby's International Realty. And they'll say, oh, I know who you are. That's why I picked up the phone. I saw it on caller ID. And I mean, not to say like in a boastful way, but I actually hear that a lot. I'm stunned because I wouldn't want to pick up my own call, but they do. And then also I've heard so many people say, what? God, Rob, I'm shocked. I never stay on the phone with someone this long from a cold call. A lot of times I'm saying to the person, hey, you know what? I know I've taken a lot of your time and I know you're super busy. Have a fantastic day. Thank you. Get off the phone with them. But yeah, so long answer to your simple question. I cold call. I go after expireds as well. I love door knocking, but I just haven't done that in a long time because I know my numbers. I can have higher numbers with calls. And if I bring a really animated tone, expressive tone, I think it makes up that I'm not there in person. But for those that like to door knock, it's awesome because they see you, dressed the part. Don't go in ripped jeans and a baseball cap, look the part. I would knock on the door, and for the physiology part to make them feel safe, even though I'm not a big guy, but I would step back when they would come to the door. I wouldn't step forward. I'd step back, greet, say hello. And if they weren't moving, I'd then look down the street on each side. Hey, by chance, do you know if any neighbors are thinking about moving that I can go help? And so many times people would step out on their doorstep. Oh yeah, that house down the street over there in that corner, I heard something. They might be selling. And also bring something with you to drop off at the door if you're door knocking. Clearly, have something with you as far as neighborhood material, why they should call you, that sort of thing.
What time of the day do you prospect?
In the morning from like 8:30 to 9:30 to 10 in that zone. So I'm only putting in, which my coach is cracking the whip on me to get my numbers up, which is why I pay her to
You never heard that before.
Right. But I like to knock it out in the morning as soon as possible. It just feels good. Matthew Ferry used to talk about he's like, isn't it interesting? There's magic that happens when you prospect. You may not have got a lead from that prospecting time, but it's so bizarre. Later on in the afternoon, you get a call out of nowhere. He's like, it's just the magic. It's the energy that we're putting out there and keeping them in motion. And I believe that. And it makes me feel good.
Robert, are you open for a little bit of coaching right now?
Yeah.
So I hear you feel like you get more from the doors than the phones. However, I'd like to suggest to you and anyone else that's listening, but we're just going to have a coaching call, you and I, for a moment. Door knock expireds at the door. First contact. I'm telling you, man,
Game
it's
changer.
bringing gold, and no one else is doing it to speak of.
You know what, Neil, that is so interesting that you bring up, because I thought about that a few days ago, that, maybe that's also a little bit guilty, complacent, a little bit sometimes, where I just mail those out. But I was thinking about it. I'm like, God, I should maybe like go back to dropping these off at the door. It's a huge commitment of time, but yeah, I mean, and by the way, I used to early in my career, and it made a difference. I don't even know how many listings because I was the first at the door.
Right. So I would highly recommend this. I would do it for a couple of months. I would take a specific area so that you're not driving too far one way or the other,
Right.
or maybe 2 or 3 different areas. And then while you're there, Robert, door knock 10 houses around each one, because you've already paid for the gas and the time to get there.
Yes, and I've heard that before. That's a good idea.
Good job. Excellent. Yeah. Try that. Call me back in a couple of weeks and tell me how that went.
By the way, quick, it's interesting. I was just talking to this guy, Randy Zisk, past client, and we were laughing about he told me a neighborhood that he wanted to buy in. I went door knocking. I knocked on this door, 1776 Old Ranch Road. Dr. Maester comes to the door. I asked him if he wants to sell with him in a South African accent, says yes. I was like, I wasn't used to that answer, right? So I was like, come on in. Speed up this story as fast as I can, but it's a really good story. Not only did I sell Maester's house, which I now call him because he and I have sailed to Indonesia for 2 weeks surfing together, became good friends. Not only did I sell Maester's house, then I got a signed call that I listed 1801 Old Ranch Road. I double popped that. That was $800,000. It was land, but at 10%. Those people then built a $6 million home that I later sold. I had another signed call that I listed 2501 Banyan. Then I sold a house for them, Beverly Hills. Speed up that story. That one door earned me $575,000 in commissions, and became great friends with this guy, Maester, surfing Indonesia and chartering a yacht together.
Wow.
And I was just on the phone with Randy just 2 days ago, just reminiscing. I'm like, oh my God, Randy, I remember you and Jennifer were looking to buy a home in Sullivan Canyon. And I went door knocking. I didn't tell him all the rest, but I said, remember Maester? I actually became good friends with that guy. Went sailing with him.
So not sure exactly if you could do it again, but what if you did door knocking of expireds for the next 2 weeks? What if?
Are you coaching me again? Inspiring me? I'm going to probably do it.
What a great commitment. Good job. Any other questions? And if any of the others of you like what I just asked Robert to do, and you guys want to do it, that'd be okay too. What the heck, right?
Yeah, for me too. Like, again, going the difference for cold calling versus door knocking. I don't know why I really love cold calling. To me, it's like just a game.
Okay.
Like a game.
Well, don't stop doing that, but go door knock only expireds.
All right, Neil, I'm going to do that for 1 week. See what happens.
All right. And next week, I'll call you and see if I can get you to do it another week. All right. That's great. Good job. Okay. So other questions for Robert? Questions? All right, Robert, I have a question for you. We have a good number of newer agents on this call. We have a good number of agents that are a little concerned about the marketplace with all the August 17th conversations. What would you advise an agent that really did need to ramp it up right now and needs to pick up a couple of deals? There's more agents and less business out there. What would you suggest? What would you recommend, and you can't recommend door knocking expireds.
Well, you said a word twice, need. You said a word.
I'm sorry?
Twice. You said one word twice. That word was need. And my first knee-jerk reaction to that is do the best you can to not come from a place of need.
Ah, okay.
And then we
Tell me more about that. What does that mean to you?
because you never want to have commission breath where you're coming across as someone that needs the deal. And that for me too is I think the blessing that there was a time I needed it and I just did all that I could to hide that. And every time I lost a deal, even when I was so broke and my first 5 escrows canceled, I was like feeling depleted. I kept on saying, for some reason, the other agent needed this, but more than me. I'm friggin' broke, but for some reason, God wanted that person to have the deal. Like, I got to just accept that. But later in my career, when I got past the needing to hide that, yeah, you never want to come from that place. Wanting, excited, about one more transaction, helping people, because I'm part of a 12-step group. Okay. And that 12-step is about being of service to other human beings, other people in my fellowship and outside my fellowship. So for me, every day I want to help people because not in an arrogant way. I'm freaking really good at what I do. Like, I really believe that. I've put hundreds of thousands of dollars in clients' pockets that I know some other agent wouldn't have done through negotiating. I put millions of dollars in investors' pockets. So I really believe I'm freaking helping these people. So coming from that place every day with passion is what makes it fun and fulfilling, never needing.
I like that a lot. That was fantastic. Good stuff. Excellent. All right, let's give Robert a really big hand. Unmute yourselves, please. Unmute yourselves. Woo! All right.
Yeah,
Good job.
thank you.
Very, very good. Robert, what we do now is kind of talk about what we learned. You're welcome to stay around and listen, and there might be some questions that pop up during that time. But I understand if you have a hard stop and you need to move on.
I mean, I can hang for a couple more minutes if anyone had any specific questions. It didn't seem like anyone does or did, but let's ask one more time. If not, I'm gonna bounce.
I do have a question.
Well, let's go with Juan first and then Jody.
Yeah, Robert, thank you so much, man. It's really inspiring to hear your story. And one of the things that got my attention at the very beginning, you mentioned that you wanted to change your life, right? When you went through this rough time, and you say to yourself, I want to be someone. How do you see yourself at that point in your life with things being rough before, and all of a sudden you want to change that?
Yeah. Well, before I answer that question, let me do it's not a promo because the book's free. So if you want an audio book of my life, and the only reason I mentioned this, the second part is all about my starting real estate. And so go to www.180life.us, 180life.us. There's a free audio download of my book. It's an autobiography titled 180 Degrees, where I answer that question in depth, right? As far as turning my life around. But it's also all the lessons that I learned from great people, Mike Ferry, Tony Robbins, to spiritual leaders like Wayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle, Tony Robbins, all of them. So I put all of that in part 2. There's 2 parts of the book. Part 1, my ugly war stories of being a drug addict on the streets. Part 2, it's about starting a life in real estate and getting sober, connection with God, which I have deeply. I live a spiritual life, try to every day. And all the success that I learned and all the failures and stupid things I did that I also learned from. But to answer that is, I think it was also always in me a little bit. Like, I really wanted success. For many years, I always thought it was for those rich people over there. Like, it's never going to be me. Like, I envy those people with the white picket fence and the golden retriever and that life. You know, that's never going to be my story. But I always kind of secretly wanted that, you know? And then as I got sober, I started turning my life around and I started seeing how other people live. And again, believing in God, thinking, you know what? God wants me to be happy. God wants me to be successful. Like, wait a second. I want to go out there and help others and allow also God and the universe to give me gifts as well. So,
And that's how,
and then one other thing is when I was struggling, I always remembered Muhammad Ali's quote, you know, today I will suffer because tomorrow I will live like a champion.
100%, 100%, Robert. Well said.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank
so
you,
much.
Juan. Good job. Good question. Josie.
I love that affirmation. God wants me to be happy. Thank you, Robert.
And Rich.
And yeah. Do you say that too?
Yeah, you know, that's why I didn't understand Buddhism. You know, like, wait a second, I want to strip away everything for enlightenment. I like nice things.
Give me cash flow.
So my question really was, admire you for continuing to do this 12-step program. How often do you go to meetings?
3 times a week, but you know what? That's a whole other topic. I've got 33 years sober, somewhere hovering around the 21, 22 year range. I was actually really, really close with Matthew Ferry, Mike's son. I don't know if I'm assuming all of you know who Mike is, and so you're with Neil. And so Matthew was coaching me, and then I got really down this rabbit hole of just meditation and kind of in my little Zen sort of vibe. And, you know, I stopped going to meetings, but I was still kind of involved through fellowship. And in this last year, I dove back into meetings. I speak. I go to like 3 to 4 a week, and I go just to kind of like give back, and I get from it as well.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Good question, Josie. Thanks. Patty Malone. Patty, question.
Hi, Robert. Thank you so much. That was really great and inspiring. Simple question regarding door knocking. I mean, the 20 million, 30, you can't get to those houses, can you, to door knock or?
Well, some of them, you're right. I can't, so I don't. But there are some in the, you know, $5 and $6 million range that I can. You know, there's one area called Santa Monica, north of Montana Flats, grid streets, super easy to door knock. So I'd go there. But I've knocked on every single door other than Malibu, because there's like some big terrain and walking up hills and gates. But yeah, I've knocked on all the doors. You know, but some of them, yeah, if it's a big gate like Spielberg, he's got a big gate in front of his house. Can't get to his home. But others I can.
I guess I have a limiting belief. I limit myself, you know.
Yeah, and by the way, you've got a great smile, Patty. So
oh, thanks.
go to the door. Yeah, go to the door, smile, bring your love and enthusiasm to the front door and let them feel that. Let them see that in you. You know, like I learned long ago that people will go out of their way to do business with people they like. So come from a place that they like you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's good. Thanks, Patty. Good question. Mark, did you have a question?
You know, I just want to acknowledge, Robert, well, first of all, just at your presentation, right? So that immediately says a whole world, just the way your presentation is, personal presentation. So I could take a page out of that. And then your love for being on the phones. I love it and I feel it. And yeah, just want to say thanks for presenting. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. Good. What else did we learn from Robert today so far?
Can I say something?
Please, Lydia.
Robert, first of all, I just want to say before I ask the question that you don't realize how important what you told us about your beginnings is, because I once was a really good agent and then I got older and I had a lot of problems. And right now I'm in a real slump and I'm trying to get up. And what you said really touched me. I just want you to know that, first of all. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Secondly, the other thing I was going to ask is Oh gosh, I forgot. I wanted to tell you that. Well, thank you. I just want to thank you. Thank you so much because I'm inspired today and I'm really trying to get back up there. So
Hey,
thank
well,
you.
You'll do it,
and
Lydia.
by the way, yeah, exactly. Thank you for that. That was so sweet of you and so genuine. I appreciate that. So, but the excitement, the feeling that you're having right now, right? Like I was just telling my son this, you know, he had a good experience at Universal Studios. I was like, hey, Grayson, you could tap into that feeling anytime you want. And so for you right now, feeling this moment of like, you know what this character in front of me, Rob's talking about, it's inspiring me. It's making me excited. Keep taking that with you every day and remember this. Go back into your memory bank. It's kind of that Jose Silva mind control stuff. Go back to that memory bank and remember this every day when you start your day.
I'll take a picture of you and put it on my wall.
Listen,
Thank you.
listen to his book, Lydia, really.
I am
It's
going
a
to.
great story.
I'm going to. Thank you so
It's
much.
a great story. Good
I have
stuff.
a question for Robert.
Please do.
Yes, I was writing down the book that he said, www.180us.
No, 180 life.
180
180life.us.
us.
180 numeric 180life.us. And then there's 2 books there. Don't buy the digital or the print. Just download the free audio of 180 degrees. Money back guarantee.
Well, I want to say thank you. I benefited a lot from your just looking at you, how you sit, how you talk. It helps me a lot. I wanna imitate a lot of things that you do. Thank you for coming to this interview. I appreciate it.
Oh, right
You're
on.
welcome. Thank you for sharing, Marani. Robert, great job. Daisy, you had a question or a comment?
Yes, actually, I have been learning a lot with this conversation, and I took a lot of notes, but I want to know more about the first thing that he says about knowing the inventory. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I want to learn more.
Well, you guys have down there, don't you, like Caravan, a day that homes are open to the agents to go see?
It's slightly yes and no, but we can preview property anytime by calling the listing agent and setting a time to do it. Almost
Add that to your door knocking. You're going to knock on expireds. You're going to knock on 10 doors around that house. And then you're going to schedule times of preview the inventory, especially in the market that you want to start working in, and study it. Know the inventory. That is one of those things I want everyone to be left with. That is such an important factor to have dialogue with people that you know the inventory.
I love it, Robert. You're singing to the choir with me.
Thank you, thank you.
Good job. Great question, Daisy. Other comments or questions for Robert before he has to go? Raise your hand or say something. Robert, I really appreciate this to the nth degree. I know we have some things that we want to discuss in the future. I'm looking forward to it. I always love spending time with you. And if there's anything we can do or I can do specifically for you, don't ever hesitate to reach out, my friend.
And Neil, you're awesome. And I'm not saying this because
I am.
Yeah, no, you are. And everyone on this call, everyone that gets to learn with you and from you, Neil, like they are really blessed. You
Thank
are, I was saying this to your ears were burning earlier because I was saying this to Carlos. I'm like, yeah, by the way, I'm going to do this thing with Neil later today. He's like, oh, yeah, I just had, you guys just met and you guys are talking. I said, yeah, he's solid. Like, I really like Neil. He's a good guy. You're a good person, but you're also really, really inspiring, and you help people in this industry. And I'm sure you help them outside the industry. And that's so commendable. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this, was just anything to be a part of helping you out too.
Well, we appreciate it. I appreciate it. And no good turn goes unrewarded. We appreciate that. And the thing that I get from this so much is your story and how raw and open you are about it. In life, we're either an example or we're a warning. You, my friend, are a giant example, and I appreciate being your friend.
Oh, right back at you.
All right.
Well,
Thank you. Thanks, Robert. Good work.
Fist
Thank
bumps,
you.
fist bumps and high
Fantastic.
fives.
All right. Anything else we learned from Robert today that you guys want to share?
Yeah. Neil, I wanted to say he mentioned multiple times that he believed in himself. I mean, the way he connected, he was talking about things, he was talking about being confident, know what you're doing. But then every time he went to that place, it's like he knows something deeper in him that he knows he's the best person to do the job. He knows all this, he believes all the deep belief in him. So I
Was
think
there a
it's
question?
no, the comment was more like he tapped to something that he knows he can touch it anytime he needs it. In the presentations and talking to us and everything. I mean, he comes across.
My sense, we're not asking him this question, but my sense comes from confidence in his market knowledge. Okay? When I say market, he knows the script and dialogue is good or better than most. He can handle in fact, it's interesting because I'm thinking about changing how I present to real estate agents. He goes right after the commission almost from the beginning. Okay? Product, incentives. We're going to incentivize the agents, incentivize it, right? So he's going right at them. So they're buying him almost immediately. Either they buy it or they reject it. He doesn't care. Okay. He just keeps going after it. And he's making big money. So every time he wins, he makes $100,000.
Mhm.
That's not chump change. When we win, we make $10, $15, $25,000, right? He makes $100,000 every time he wins. How'd you like to be winning at his ballpark? Okay. And I think he has this because of his 12-step program and that whole group. Again, I've not experienced personally, but I've experienced people who have experienced it. They're very spiritual. They believe in a higher power. They believe their ego is not the end ego. There's actually somebody above them. And I think that's where some of this comes from too, Juan Carlos.
And nearly, if I can make a comment, just what you just said right now. He goes straight to deal with the commission. Right? You just mentioned this, and something came up to me. Then I think it connects with this what you say. The magic, the magic that we're looking for aren't the things that we're avoiding.
Is what we're avoiding.
What we're avoiding, yeah, because we know that's a huge issue always for every buyer, for sellers out there, and we cannot go around it all the time, right? Trying to hope they don't ask for it, but that's exactly what you say.
No, we do, and actually, it's a very good point. We all do that. In most cases, we avoid the commission conversation. In most cases, at the end, and we only try, I guess the script that we have now is how much do you charge? Well, have you seen my plan of action? Yeah, great. Well, we do all those items. We only charge 2.78% for all of it. You decide what you want to pay the buyer's agent. I don't want to pay anything. Great. Sign the contract. I want the contract signed. Hello. We had this conversation this morning, Juan Carlos, on a role play, on a mastermind. And it came out that everyone on the mastermind call, when asked how much do you charge, almost every one of them diverted very quickly to telling rather than asking. Think about what I'm just saying here. We want to explain the position. instead of just, did you look at the 27 things I do? Yeah.